This morning we are chanting the 4 grounds of mindfulness, the Satipatthana Sutta. Section 1. I heard these words of the Buddha one time when the Lord was staying in the town of Kamasa Dharma in the land of the Kuru people. The Lord addressed the bhikkhus. There is a path which can help beings realize purification, overcome anxiety and fear, end pain, distress, and grief, and attain the right patience practice. This is the path of dwelling in the 4 grounds of mindfulness. What are the 4 grounds of mindfulness? They are the 4 methods of observing body as body, feelings as feelings, mind as mind, and objects of mind as objects of mind. Section 2, body. What is the way to remain established in the awareness of body as body? When the practitioner walks, they know they are walking. When they stand, they know they are standing. When they sit, they know they are sitting. When they lie down, they know they are lying down. When they wake up, they know they wake up. Awake or asleep, they know they are awake or asleep. Further, bhikkhus, when practicing awareness of the body, the practitioner is clearly aware of the positions and movements of the body, such as going out and coming in, bending down and standing up, extending limbs or drawing them in, when wearing the Sangati robe, carrying the alms bowl, walking, standing, lying, sitting, speaking, or being silent. They know the skillful way of being aware. Further, bhikkhus, a practitioner is aware of body as body. When breathing in, they know that they are breathing in, and breathing out, they know that they are breathing out. When breathing in a long breath, they know that they are breathing in a long breath. When breathing out a long breath, they know that they are breathing out a long breath. When breathing in, they are aware of their whole body. Breathing in, they are aware of the cessation of the activity of their body. Breathing in, they are aware of the cessation of the activity of their speech. Further, bhikkhus, a practitioner is aware of body as body when feelings of bliss, joy, happiness, and equanimity arise during their concentration and saturate every part of their body. These feelings envelop the whole of their body, just as someone who puts on a very long robe which reaches from their head to their feet, and there is no part of their body which is not covered by this robe. So the practitioner with an equanimous mind envelops their whole body in understanding and leaves no part of the body untouched. Further, bhikkhus, a practitioner who is aware of the body knows very well that this body exists due to the interdependence of the parts of the body, from the top of the head to the soles of the feet. They see all the parts of the body, observe the elements which compose the parts of the body, and visualize the dispersion of these elements back to the earth. When they visualize it like this, they compare it with their own body. This body of mine will also undergo a transformation such as this. In the end, there is no way it can avoid this condition. This is how the practitioner is aware of body as body, both inside the body and outside the body, and establishes mindfulness in the body with recognition, insight, clarity, and realization. This is called being aware of body as body. Section 3, feelings. What is the way to remain established in the awareness of feelings as feelings? When the practitioner has a pleasant feeling, they know immediately that they have a pleasant feeling. When they have an unpleasant feeling, they know immediately that they have an unpleasant feeling. When they have a neutral feeling, they know immediately that they have a neutral feeling. The same is true when the practitioner has a pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feeling in the body, of the mind, of this world, not of this world, with desire, not associated with desire. This is how the practitioner is aware of feelings as feelings, both inside the feelings and outside the feelings, and establishes right mindfulness. If there are bhikkhus and bhikkhunis who meditate on feelings as feelings according to these instructions, then they are capable of dwelling in the meditation on feelings as feelings. Section 4, mind. What is the way to remain established in the meditation on mind as mind? When the practitioner's mind is attached to something, they know it is attached to something. When the practitioner's mind is not attached, they know it is not attached. The same is true when the practitioner's mind hates something or is not hating, is confused or is not confused, is defiled or not defiled, is distracted or not distracted, has obstacles or has no obstacles, is tense or is not tense, is boundless or is bound, is concentrating or is not concentrating, is liberated or is not liberated. That is how the practitioner is aware of mind as mind, both inside the mind and outside the mind, and establishes mindfulness in the mind with recognition, insight, clarity, and realization, and that is called being aware of mind as mind. If bhikkhus or bhikkhunis meditate on mind as mind according to the details of these instructions, then they know how to dwell in the practice of observing mind as mind. Section 5, objects of mind. What is the way to remain established in the meditation on objects of mind as objects of mind? When the practitioner realizes that their eyes in contact with form give rise to an internal formation, then they know without any doubt that an internal formation is being formed. If there is no internal formation, they know without any doubt that there is no internal formation. If an internal formation which has not arisen formerly now arises, they know this. If an internal formation which had arisen formerly now comes to an end and will not rise again, they know this. The same is true with all the other sense organs, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. If bhikkhus or bhikkhunis meditate on objects of mind as objects of mind according to these instructions, then they know how to dwell in the practice of observing objects of mind as objects of mind in the 6 realms of consciousness. Further, bhikkhus, when the practitioner is meditating on objects of mind as objects of mind, if they see sensual desire in themselves, they know without any doubt that sensual desire is there. If they see no sensual desire in themselves, they know without any doubt that there is no sensual desire is there. If a sensual desire which had not arisen formerly now arises, they know this without any doubt. If a sensual desire which had arisen formerly now comes to an end. They also know this without any doubt. The same is true of the other four obstacles: anger, torpor, agitation, and doubt. If bhikkhus or bhikkhunis meditate on objects of mind as objects of mind according to the details of these instructions, then they know how to dwell in the practice of observing objects of mind as objects of mind with regard to the five obstacles. Further, bhikkhus, when the practitioner is meditating on objects of mind as objects of mind, if they see in their mind the factor of awakening, mindfulness, they know without any doubt that mindfulness is there. When mindfulness is not present, they know without a doubt that mindfulness is not present. When mindfulness, which had formerly not been present, is now present, the practitioner also knows this without any doubt. When mindfulness had arisen and is still present, is not lost, does not decline, but increases, the practitioner is also aware of all this. The same is true of all the other factors of awakening: the investigation of dharmas, energy, joy, ease, concentration, and equanimity. This is how the practitioner is aware of objects of mind as objects of mind, both the inside of the object and the outside of the object, and establishes mindfulness in the object of mind with understanding, insight, clarity, and realization, and that is called being aware of objects of mind as objects of mind. If bhikkhus or bhikkhunis meditate on objects of mind as objects of mind according to these instructions, then they know how to dwell in the practice of meditating on objects of mind as objects of mind with regard to the seven factors of awakening. After the Lord Buddha had spoken, the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis who heard him teach were delighted and endeavored to carry out the practice. And we bow. We will return to noble silence until service begins. I'd like to invite up our incense offering folks to come on up. On page 2, you'll find the incense lighting gatha, and we'll chant that all together. And together we say, in gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding, slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Good morning. Welcome to the temple. Few announcements before we start. Anybody new to the temple, this might be your first time. You don't have to raise your hand, but cool. All right, welcome. Nice to have you here. Just a couple courtesy announcements. When you're traveling around the Dharma hall, we ask that you walk around the back for our viewers online. Hi, everyone online. And also, if you need to use restrooms, there are two just behind these curtains up here. There's also a restroom downstairs, or if you need to grab water, we generally have like cups at either side of the room if you need something, or a cough drop. Really dry time of year, or throat's bothering you, please feel free to take care of yourself. Okay. We also have a library downstairs, so if you need space to just like maybe your legs are falling asleep and you need to walk around a little bit, please feel free to go down there and take advantage of that. Cool. So we're going to start by inviting everybody to stand up and silently greet one another with bows before we start our morning chants. So on page 3 of the chant book, we'll start with the 3 refuges. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to practice mindful breathing and smiling and looking deeply into things. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to offer joy to one person in the morning and to help relieve the grief of one person in the afternoon. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. Lay down. On the next page, you'll find the Heart Sutra. As you're chanting this, especially if you're hearing it for the first time, it might be a little confusing. Do your best to keep your mind open to what is being taught here. There is a lot of information, so take what you can. For those who know this sutra, who have chanted it a long time, who are familiar with the words, try to engage with this chant in a new way today. See if there's something new that you can notice, or a different way that you're hearing it, because it can just become another thing that we chant thinking that we are doing the right thing, but then we just completely forget about what the Buddha is trying to teach. So see if you can move your mind around it in just a little bit of a different way today. Dharma Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion from the deep practice of prajna, paramita, perceive the emptiness of all five skandhas and deliver all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight, no realm of consciousness. No ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, no old age and death, nor extinction of them. No suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna, paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all delusive views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant, fearless mantra, the utmost supreme mantra, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisvaha. Dhamma Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. Before we sit down, Before I teach, I engage in prostration practices. It's a way of me moving my mind towards what I'm about to do on this dais, which for every teacher, it's our position to take the mind of the Buddha. So to place my mind in that way of thinking, I prostrate. And that's an act of humility that I don't know it all, but I'm going to do my best to pass on the teachings of the Buddha. If you have a prostration practice, you are welcome to join at this time. Good morning, everyone. It is so cool to see this many people sitting here this morning. Like, there are some temples in America that have some of the wisest lamas that you could ever imagine, and they get like 6 people. I mean, we're talking some of the most incredibly enlightened minds that you may ever be able to come across in this lifetime, and they don't get quite that many people sitting and listening to these teachings. So it's really great that we have such a large community of people that we can talk to about these things, because I hate to break it to you, but in the Western world, you're kind of weird. Okay? Yeah, you're doing something that's not normal, but it's incredibly extraordinary. So my name is Zee. That's short for Elizabeth. I do have a Dharma name, but in my tradition, we keep our Dharma names secret to ourselves. It's meant to encourage our own inner practice. So a little bit about me. I teach in the Tibetan Gelug lineage. If you know who His Holiness the Dalai Lama is, my teachers come from the same lineage and that he came from. My teachers, I think that's it. It's like my great grandpa or something like that. He was the tutor to the Dalai Lama. So we're talking direct lineage here. One thing about me that you will notice as a teacher is I'm very passionate about preserving the teachings. It's part of who I am. In my real life, I'm an Irish dancing teacher. Little bit of a niche thing there, but it's the same thing in Irish dancing. I'm certified through the oldest commission of Irish dancing in the world. And in order to be certified, you have to know what you're teaching. And you're actually required to memorize 30 different dances, all the variety, all the different parts of those dances, whether the 8 people in the dance go right or left, clockwise or anti-clockwise. And that's just one of the 5 sections that we're required to know. So for me, practicing and knowing exactly what is being passed on is very, very, very important. You all have minds. All of us do. And that is such a precious thing that we're able to work with in this lifetime. And so take your mind seriously, because it is the thing that when the Buddha worked with his, okay, when I say the Buddha, I mean the traditional Siddhartha Gautama, okay, when he took the time to work with his mind, he discovered that he didn't have to experience suffering anymore. And that, for me, is why I come. If there is a possibility where my mind doesn't have to suffer anymore, and not just my mind, but I can help teach other people how their minds don't have to suffer anymore, man, imagine what this world would be like. Be a pretty cool place, right? Be a really, really cool place. But I can't make you wake up. No teacher can do that. They just guide you. They just point the way. So one of the skillful ways that we teach, and we chanted this morning, is refuge. Going to refuge, okay? Now that can seem a little out there to somebody who might be just getting into the Buddhist teachings. Like, what exactly does that mean? Okay. I'm going to try to break it down for you in a more relatable way. Okay. So I'm going to address, what does it mean to go for refuge? Okay. Where did the Buddha teach this? Why did he teach it? How did he do it? Okay. So we go for refuge. We sang it we chanted it in our refuge chants this morning. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Okay. And I first want to talk about what refuge isn't. Okay. Just to give you something to compare it against. Okay. Refuge is not pretending that life isn't hard. Okay. It's not asking the universe or some perceived omniscient being to fix things for you. It is not thinking that if you wear the robes, ring the bells, chant the chants, memorize the right sutra, that you'll become enlightened. It is not being passive towards the world. And it's also not running away from responsibility. Okay? So in the Dharmapada, verses 188 to 189, the Buddha teaches, driven by fear, people go for refuge to mountains, forests, parks, trees, and shrines. But that is not a secure refuge. That is not the supreme refuge. By going to that refuge, one is not freed from suffering. Now, I don't know about you, but when I go to a park, like a really nice nature park, I'm like, oh, this is pretty nice. This is a great place to go and like center my mind. Why would the Buddha say all that? Why would the Buddha be like, you can't find it in the mountains, guys. You can't find it in the temple, guys. Let's investigate. So a modern way to interpret this might be, okay, Buddha says forests, parks, trees, and shrines, okay? I'm going to give you an example of my own personal example, okay? So let's take a look at a moment when maybe you're feeling in a funk, or you're feeling down, or you're feeling stressed, or you're feeling overwhelmed, even anger, okay? Any of those things that become habits that turn into negativities for us. Now, for me, when I'm feeling really overwhelmed and my life is pretty ridiculous, I live probably about 5 lives in one, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. Even in your own lives, you're like, oh yeah, I wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm pretty much running nonstop all day. And then all of a sudden it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm finally sitting in my bed and all I want to do is eat chocolate and scroll. If you're like me. Okay. Now, initially it might be like, oh, well, eating chocolate isn't bad, right? Scrolling isn't bad. It doesn't have to be bad. But the problem is I'm not engaging with those things in a virtuous way. I'm engaging with those things as thinking, if I just eat the chocolate, I'll feel happy. If I just scroll enough, I'll feel happy, right? But what happens when you wake up the next morning and have to do it all over again? You still happy? No. Now the taste of chocolate's gone. No, it's gone. Okay. I just want to eat more chocolate, right? Happy, not happy, happy, not happy. Again, we mistakenly think that our way or our way out, our way to happiness, our way to freedom from suffering can be achieved through these nominal things, like going to a forest or a park or a shrine. If I just go there, then I'll be happy. Well, what happens when you leave? Aren't you? You should still be happy, right? If you went there to get happiness, you should be walking away with it. Where'd it go? Why didn't it stick around? Okay. So when we talk about it feels good to relax. That's not what we're saying. You should be taking moments for yourself. Okay. You should be taking moments for self-care. The trouble here isn't that. Okay. It's that when the mind is holding on to this feeling of anxiety, overwhelm, or whatever it is, it's then going to dump all of that this must be the release onto the experience of eating the chocolate, the experience of doom scrolling, the experience of Netflix and chill. Okay. Like that's where my mind is going to be like, oh, well, this will be my refuge and it'll make me feel good. And no matter what, like I'll be okay. But then I wake up the next morning and I'm not feeling good anymore. So is that really a good refuge? So, as Buddha said, by going to that refuge, I'm not freed from suffering. I'm trying to be free from suffering. That's the whole point of this practice. Now, you might argue, well, in that moment, you're free from suffering. The point of the practice isn't to do it for one moment. It's not to be suffering sometimes and not suffering other times. The point of the practice is to eliminate suffering at the root so that you can show up for not just you, but everybody else for 24/7, because that's what the Buddha did. It was showing up constantly 24/7. And does that sound exhausting? Absolutely. I could not do that right now. I do not have that capacity of a Buddha. But seeing that example and that it's possible to do that is what I'm aiming for, is what I'm striving for. Okay? All right. So what kind of refuge is? What's gonna take me where the Buddha went? Okay. So refuge means, where do you turn when you suffer? Okay. Every human takes refuge already somewhere. Okay. When stress hits, it might be refuge in food or scrolling. Maybe it's refuge in gossip. Maybe it's refuge in anger. Maybe it's refuge in control. Maybe it's refuge in distraction or relationships or achievement. Never wanting to stop working because you just get one more hit of being, oh, look, I'm successful. That proves it. Maybe it's refuge in just numbing out from the craziness of the world. Those are all what the Buddha calls temporary refuge. You go to the park, you're going to come home, right? Eventually from the park. It's temporary. Now you could go live in the park. But again, what happens when you leave the park? Did you work on your mind or did you just work on the location? So these things soothe, but they don't free or bring you or anyone else closer to freedom from being stuck in the cycle of existence, okay? What we call the cycle of samsara, okay? Now, the Buddha says that there's a more reliable place to rest your heart, okay? And in the following verses, 190 to 192, in the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, one who goes for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha sees with right wisdom the 4 Arya truths. Some of you know that as the 4 Noble Truths. Suffering, the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the eightfold path leading to the end of suffering. That is the secure refuge. That is the supreme refuge. Having gone to that refuge, one is freed from all suffering. So let's talk about it. Okay, now those 3 things, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, are what is known as the 3 jewels. Okay, they're the 3 jewels of our practice. And they're what we know as, they're anchors. Okay, they're the anchors for us to continue returning our mind to Dharma, to the teachings, to what reality is. Okay, and so the Buddha is the representation of the teacher. Now, in my lineage, the teacher is a very important aspect of our practice because it is through that teacher that I am going to grow as a student. Has anybody ever had like a really good coach that you were like, they made such an impact in my life? Or maybe a teacher. Anybody have someone like that in their life? Right. So somebody that like really inspires you to be the best version of yourself. That is what a teacher in Buddhism is. And that's what we work on finding as practitioners, is somebody who lights that part of us up that inspires us to want to be the best version of ourselves. And we go, you know what, teacher? I know I don't know all the answers, so can you help guide me? And I feel incredibly blessed for my own teacher. And when you find somebody like that, hang on to them for dear life, even when it gets hard. Hang on for dear life. Okay? So you've got the teacher. Then you have the Dharma. Now, the Dharma has 2 technical meanings. It can mean things. Okay, all things are Dharma. This is a Dharma. This is a Dharma. This is a Dharma. Okay. It can also mean the teachings. Okay. So anything that is transmitted from a teacher or from the Buddha or from one of the variety of lineage holders that it comes from, that is the Dharma. Okay. Or the teachings. And the last jewel is the Sangha. Now, the Sangha traditionally meant Aryas, people who had achieved the direct perception of emptiness, people who saw through the veil or the illusion of what we think reality is, who woke up to that and went, so this is what I have to habituate. It's not that the world is coming at me, it's that the world comes from me. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, because that might be like, whoa, what's she talking about now? Like, she's starting to break like the fifth wall of my existence. Because it can feel that way. And when you're in meditation, it's like spinning in the matrix, okay? So it's our community of practitioners. Now, meeting a room full of people who have had the direct perception of emptiness is a very rare thing to come across. But there's places you can find it. So when we talk about Sangha, we talk about the community of practitioners that are deeply involved and deeply understand the teachings, okay? People who have a good grasp on what karma and emptiness are, okay? Karma meaning movement of the mind and what follows. What are the causes and conditions that shape our reality? I think a good way to think about what the teachings are is really Buddhist psychology. It's how we interpret the world around us. It's how our mind reacts and functions within what we are experiencing through our senses, through our ears, our eyes, our nose, our tongue, our body, our mind. Okay? It's how we are experiencing the world. And so the Sangha is those kinds of people who have a good grasp on what that means and are studying deeply. Okay? Now, we call our Sangha folks who come every Sunday. This is where you're going to get soaked into these teachings. Okay? When you're really fighting, don't know where to go, your mind is lost, you got people who are like, yes, that happens to me too. Let's talk about it. Okay? Let's support one another. So, refuge in the Buddha. Let's talk about that first. Going for refuge to the Buddha doesn't mean sitting in front of a statue. Okay? It doesn't mean sitting in front of that statue and wishing for your life to change or to pray to the Buddha to fix your problems. Okay? The example of Gautama Buddha means that the solution to your problems is within your own mind. Having a mind means that you have the complete full potential to wake up. Just like Siddhartha, who was human too. Now, everyday refuge in Buddha might look like something like in a moment of stress going, hang on a second. Stress isn't who I am, okay? I am not broken. I am not incapable. And that my mind has the capacity to change how it is viewing the experience that I'm having right now, okay? The driver screaming at you from their window, flipping the bird, you could choose to feel anger, you could choose to feel anxiety, you could choose to feel overwhelm, or you could choose to feel compassion. The wonderful thing about our minds is that they're changeable. It's just how often are we actually able to notice that ability that we can change things, that we have agency, okay? So instead, can we smile and wave? Can we wish them compassion? Can we see that there's suffering in the world and try to remove it from our own experience so we don't go and pass that on to somebody else? So here's something to think about. Instead of mindlessly reaching for the phone or reaching for the sweets, okay? Because I love me a good Ghirardelli dark chocolate caramel square, okay? Now, I might grab that Ghirardelli square, okay? But instead of just mindlessly eating it, okay, I might reflect on the fact that I have a life that is fortunate enough to experience the pleasure of dark chocolate and caramel. Because let's be real, if I was a dog, like I wouldn't be able to experience it in the same way, okay? So it's mindfully reflecting on the causes of and conditions. So it's using that as a tool to show my mind what it's capable of doing, okay? It's not just, okay, the chocolate feels good and on I go, okay? This will bring me happiness. Yeah, great, Okay. It's not mindlessly in engaging with our practice, with our life. Okay. It's how am I using this moment to show me that the teachings are there in every single moment of my life. Okay. Now, if I choose to scroll, maybe it's that whatever comes up in my feed, I use it as an example to examine how experiences arise dependently. Okay. How is this coming up in my life? And maybe I'm going to use the 3 spheres of emptiness, which is an analyzing technique. Okay. And I might look at the object, okay, which is the post itself, and notice how I assume that it has an inherent meaning in it. Oh, this person's trying to sell me something. Is that true? Maybe this is a secret Buddha emanation trying to teach me about what I'm running away from instead. Why can't I see it that way? Same thing, 2 different perspectives. That's a teaching on emptiness. Okay. So I think so often that the reality I'm experiencing is in the pixels, it's in the content, it's in my interpretation of that thing. But that's not true. Because if I gave that same post to somebody else, they might see it completely differently than me. If it exuded all of those things, then everyone should see it that way. But that's not true. So where am I challenging my mind to see reality in a way that I don't usually see it, in a way that I haven't habituated my mind to see it? Because that's what the Buddha teaches us to do. How do you see your world differently than what you mistakenly think it is? Now, that's the object. That's the first sphere. Then you have the subject. It's the me. It's the me reacting to what I'm looking at, okay? It's understanding that, looking for that solid self. Where is me? Where is the actual me that is saying that this is the way that things are, okay? It's instead of finding thoughts, feelings, it is finding where are the changing thoughts, where are the changing feelings, where is the awareness rising from moment to moment. And the third sphere is observing the action of seeing and reacting. I scroll, I see the image, I react, okay? And it's noticing that that experience isn't happening between 2 separate things, but rather it's arising as an interconnected event, okay? This post isn't coming at me. It's my mind imputing information onto it, okay? I hope that makes sense. I know I'm starting to get close to that 4th, 5th wall, okay? But even in this way, even scrolling can become a reminder that both the world and the one experiencing it, okay, arises through causes and conditions, not as these solid, separate entities. It's my participation in it, okay? It's this mind participating in it. Now, refuge in Dharma. This means that remembering that the teachings, it means that remembering it's calling on the teachings in those moments of stress, okay? It's the teachings of the truth of what reality really is, okay? And it's having a good grasp on the teachings of karma and emptiness, okay? What are causes and conditions, and are they really as solid as I think they are, okay? Now, classic example, which some of you know, and today I only have a pencil, is, what is this? It's not a trick question. It's a pencil. Great. You all see it as a pencil. What is it to a dog? Which one is it? Both. But the point being that depending on the mind that's looking at it, that's the information that's being imputed on it. But if everyone saw this as a chew toy, then I would not be holding this in my hand and you'd be calling it a pencil. You'd all be like, salivating at the mouth, wanting to chew at it. Right? So this does not say to you, it does not come from its own side inherently, chew toy. For you, you have habituated pencil. For dog, they have habituated chew toy. Okay? Or my dog would look at it and be like, why are you giving this to me? Like, no, I wouldn't even see chew toy. Okay? Wouldn't even see pen or pencil. Okay? My cat would be like, ooh, fun thing to play with. Okay? So again, that's what emptiness means. It's how are we working with our reality. And so often we think that it's only ever one way. The guy flipping me off, okay, I can only react in anger to that. That's not true. My sister used to scream out the window to people who were being really crazy. She'd be like, I hope you win the lotto. Why can't that be the reaction? Wishing good on people, even when they are struggling with their reality. Okay? So the teachings are understanding that everything changes, suffering is caused, everything you experience is shaped by your mind and actions, and that freedom comes from engaging with that wisdom and compassion. Okay? So everyday refuge and Dharma might look like something that when you're experiencing something that's hard or challenging, instead of thinking, why is this happening to me? Which I know I do a lot. You shift instead to, what is this teaching me? What are the causes that are coming from my mind that are forcing me to experience it in this way? And it's gaining the ability to stop and think before you respond. Anybody familiar with Daniel Tiger? Okay, so there's one lesson that he gives when you're crossing the road. Stop and listen, stay safe. My kid loves to sing it. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And so whenever there's those really tough moments, that's a key of refuge for me. Am I stopping? Am I listening? Am I protecting my mind? Because this is all I got this life. I got this mind. This body will disappear. This mind, according to our tradition, it continues. So how am I taking care of it? Okay. So personal confession. Okay. There are times I really want to blame my children for how I'm feeling. Does anybody else ever feel that way? Stressed out moms club over here. Okay. Am I exhausted? Absolutely. Do I need to prioritize self-care? Probably. Okay. But are they inherently annoying? Okay. No, they're not. I'm interpreting their behavior that way and then placing responsibility for my experience onto them. So proof being that if their grandparents were in the room, they would think that everything they're doing is absolutely adorable. Okay. They would see it as endearing. And I'd be over here like twitching. Okay. But if they exuded annoyance, then everybody who met my children would think annoying. And that's not true. It's not. Right? But how often are we doing this? We're like, no, that person is bad. That person is evil. Oh, that person's irritating. Oh, the way that they talk and the way that they teach or the way that they do this. Oh, I just can't stand it. And we forget the I can't stand it part. So Buddha taught that things arise in the mind in dependence on causes and conditions, and the mind giving meaning to that situation. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that our experience of reality doesn't have a function. It does. Okay. It doesn't mean that we ignore harm or allow unhealthy behaviors to continue. Okay. It means that instead of reacting from habit or blame or self-centered interpretation, that we pause and respond from an ethical, a wise perspective. Stop and listen. Stay safe. Dharma refuge is skillfully responding. It is not passivity. Okay, but it's also not saying, then I get to justify my anger. That's not it either. Okay, again, it's skillful. So refuge and Sangha, last one we get to talk about. When life gets tough, turning towards those we trust is a wise response. Okay, and if you're anything like me, you've spent your whole life learning to do everything on your own. You are hyper independent. And you really like having your reality that way. And it makes you feel uncomfortable when you need to reach out to other people for help because you really just want to have all the answers for yourself. So learning to lean into Sangha has been a really challenging experience for me. But oh my goodness, it's been the best. It's been the best one that I could ever ask for. And the reason for that is like my teacher, they have a lot of minds to care for. We're talking hundreds of students, okay? And he's often reminding us that we need to take care of each other, okay? And that our relationships with our Dharma siblings are the thing that's going to help us get closer to removing that source of suffering, okay? And I'm really deeply grateful for a couple practitioners who have come into my life. I have a really good friend named Aura. She lives in Barcelona. I met her on retreat in Portugal. And she's taught me a lot about trusting myself and my intuition. And I have another friend, Sue, who's based out of New York, and she's taught me how to have confidence in my abilities. And I have another friend, Amy, who's in New Mexico, and she's taught me a lot about what it means to remain open and to be vulnerable. And I would not be the practitioner that I am today without having those kinds of influences in my life. And I'm sure you can think of people in your life who aren't Buddhist, who are those things for you, who help you be the best version of you. That is your Sangha in a way, okay? We cannot outgrow our suffering by ourselves, as much as my independent fixed mind is like, yes, you can do it all on your own. But the thing is, only you can make those imprints in your mind, okay? But if you didn't have anybody else around you, what would you be learning from? The Buddha, even though, you think about the Buddha, we're like, okay, well, the Buddha managed to do this all on his own. No, he didn't. He learned it from how not to be in the world. He was studying with ascetics who were doing really crazy things like hanging themselves upside down by their toes and sleeping on beds of nails. Those were the things that he was learning from. Sometimes we sometimes think that Sangha can only be the people that are good. And yes, those are the ones we really are encouraging you to be around. But I learned how to be a good teacher by having a really horrible teacher, by learning what not to do. Okay. And I don't mean that in Buddhist teachings. I've had some really great teachers. I mean that in my Irish dance career. I've had some coaches that were not the best and learned a lot of how not to be that. I've had some really incredible teachers when it comes to learning Buddhist teachings. So refuge in practice. First, let me just finish with this. Refuge in Sangha means I don't rely only on my stressed mind. I lean on the wise hearts around me. And so refuge in practice. We've established that refuge isn't a place you physically go, okay? It's a place that you orient your mind to, okay? So traditionally, according to our refuge vows, we're actually required in our vows, okay? Or instructed, I should say, to go to refuge 3 times each day and 3 times each night, okay? And each repetition reaffirms in our mind, okay? The Buddha, trust that awakening is possible. Dharma, trust in the path that will lead me there. And Sangha, trust in the support of my community. And so we use this in any moment that we're caught by illusion or misunderstanding, okay? Mistaking where our reality really comes from. Is it coming at us or is it coming from us? Where am I caught? Okay. And so when we prostrate, we go to refuge with our whole being through the 3 doors. Okay. With body, speech, and mind. Okay. 3 doors. How am I going to refuge in those things? What am I thinking before I respond? What am I thinking before I react? How am I finding a safe place for my mind? Am I stopping? Am I listening? Am I staying safe? Okay. So why refuge? Because refuge stops suffering at the root. Okay. That's why refuge. That's why it's taught as one of the foundational teachings in Buddhism. Refuge redirects our attention towards understanding how our mind is functioning. Okay. How reality operates and the causes that produce our experience. It is a reliable tool that helps us get out of suffering, okay? So I know I've gone over a little bit, and I'll close here before we go into a meditation. just the last couple of things. Refuge is not about becoming religious. Okay. That is just an identity trap. Okay. And it's just another subtle form of grasping. All right. It's not something that you turn into some kind of ritual that, no, this will be the thing that gets me out of suffering. Not if you don't engage with it with wisdom. Okay. Refuge is retraining where we look for the safety for our mind. Okay. We have learned to take refuge in distraction, in control, and in emotional habits. But the Buddha offered us this more stable thing: trust in our mind's full and unlimited potential. Trust in understanding how reality actually functions. And trust in the support of the community around us, those people who are walking that same path of trying to better themselves. And so refuge isn't an escape from our lived experience. It's finding the courage to interact with your world with wisdom. We always have access to this choice to turn towards wisdom instead of a habit that isn't beneficial. And we can turn to that wisdom over and over and over again. Let's get ready to do some meditation. Get comfortable. So as you begin to find your posture, reviewing the 8-point posture of Vairocana, finding a foundation in your legs, whether that's sitting in a chair or on a cushion. Try to make your hips just slightly higher than the knees, tilting the bowl of your pelvis forward. Make sure you've got enough support underneath the tailbone and the spine to keep your spine upright and straight. Hands should be resting either in the classic meditation mudra, right and left hand, thumbs slightly touching. You can also place your hands palms up or palms down on your thighs, whatever is most comfortable for you. Spine should be tall, stacked like a tall stack of coins, reaching up towards the ceiling. And let the shoulders relax if you're holding them close to your ears, sinking down the back and towards the earth. Neck long, jaw relaxed. Tongue should be resting just slightly at the back of the teeth. Lips relaxed. Eyes should be cast downward or closed, whatever is going to be most beneficial for your practice today. And lastly, turn that attention towards the breath. Notice each inhale and each exhale. And even as the room moves around you, keep trying to bring the mind back to the anchor of the breath. This might be noticing the top of the inhale and the bottom of the exhale. Noticing where that breath flips. We're encouraging the mind to anchor to the present moment. If your attention is still fixated on the breath, begin to relax that. And turn the mind towards this concept of refuge. It's not in the temple itself. It's not on the cushion itself. It's not in a place that's outside of you. It's where your mind turns when something happens. Our mind has the capacity to transform how it experiences reality. The mind is workable. Growth is always available. Maybe even notice for a few breaths here how any thoughts or feelings or sensations arise and shift. This might even be noticing the changing nature of your breath, how it never stays the same. The last inhale and exhale is not this inhale and exhale. And it's this moment-to-moment change that shows the mind's flexibility and capacity for transformation. Where we direct our mind is what encourages the expansion of that potential for growth and that potential for change. Notice any sounds that might be arising in the room. When we identify car outside or music next door, these concepts come from previous causes and conditions. Through my understanding of reality, I have habituated those sounds, arising to the ear consciousness and having labeled them as such. Each of us experience this process in different ways. A sensation is changing. A thought isn't fixed. An emotion is part of a larger process. And this practice is encouraging our mind to become curious rather than reactive. Curiosity is Dharma refuge. Now bring your mind to someone you feel encouraged by to be your best self. And those qualities that that person appears to have might include compassion, kindness, intelligence. They might be wise, joyful, considerate, ethical. Maybe you might even think of an author or historical figure from the present or the past. And see if you can connect to an image or feeling of them, even just for a moment. It's just the fact that we can think of someone that we admire shows us that we are not alone. Now observe all three of the jewels together. Buddha, a mind that has unlimited potential. Dharma, the ability to engage with your experience, to plant the best causes to end suffering. And Sangha, a community of support all around you, reflected in the goodness of others. And let your mind hold the point of refuge that is strongest for you. And think about how you might lean into that refuge the next time that you need it. Refuge isn't an escape. It's the agency or choice to turn towards wisdom and understanding and support. Take one last deep breath in and exhaling it out. And gently giving movement to your hands and your feet, waking up your body and coming back to the room. Thanks for meditating with me. So I'm going to make some of this quick, but I know we're a few minutes over. So if you're like, I got a jet, not offended, totally understand. But we're going to take a few moments to engage with our joys and concerns. In the Tibetan practice, we call this confession and rejoicing. My teacher calls it going to the rejoicicle. So it's a lot like, in the Catholic tradition, you go and what's the word confession when you go to the priest, right? Only it's sometimes, you can think of that as like, oh, this means I need to feel guilty about something. That's not what this means. It means, where could I have done better? Where did I see in my reality something that was challenging? Maybe I didn't respond very well. And how can I do that better next time? And then rejoicing in something good. This is a really hard thing for Westerners to do. We are often like trying to prove to ourselves that we're just horrible things, that we are just not good humans. It's a really toxic trait that we have as humanity. I'm not saying that everybody has it. And this is our practice, is to encourage how to transform that. So even in little things like, I brushed my teeth today. I took care of my oral health. I took care of my body. I made a cup of tea for someone else. I held the door open for someone. I got up early to make sure that somebody else was taken care of. I spent time, I took the time to call my mom, even though I really didn't want to. It's every little thing that you moved your mind in a way that was benefiting you or someone else. So when we do our joys and concerns, please feel free to rejoice. And yes, give yourself a little pat on the back, like, yeah, I am a good person. Okay, because that's what we're doing here, is showing ourselves that we have the capacity to wake up. Usually there's a microphone that comes around and you raise your hand and then you say your name and then you tell us what's going on in your mind.
Hi, my name is Ellen. It's been a long time since we've had a baby in the family, and we just got notice that our great nephew and his wife are expecting a baby in September, and we're just so totally thrilled.
My name is Kate, and I have a joy. I'm very grateful that I was here this morning for your talk, Zee. And I'm so grateful that you're one of our teachers here at the temple. Thank you.
I'm forced to do it by my teacher.
Hello, Sangha. My name is Smriti, and my joy is the weather that we have been having these last couple of days. I did an 11-hour shift yesterday with a lot of it spent outside, and it was a very different experience than a few weeks ago. And I am just extremely thankful for it.
Hi, Sangha. My name's B. My joy is that this is my first time coming in about 6 months. And a big part of why I haven't come is that a lot of stuff in my life and the world has made me feel really bogged down by all these things I feel like are being imposed on me. And I've really been starting to wake up again to my own agency in that. So this morning's talk was really what I needed to hear. So.
I'll share a joy while we find the next person. My joy is having a person in my life, my husband, who supports me in teaching and in studying this amazing philosophy, because it takes a lot of my time. I'm currently studying with my teacher right now twice a week. We're in an advanced training, and it's like yesterday all day from like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. studying, and he's watching our kids and making sure that they're taken care of. And, you know, I don't get evenings. I'm a dance teacher, so he works during the day while I take care of the toddler. And then I go and teach dancing to children from 4 p.m. in the afternoon until like 9 o'clock at night. So we have very opposite schedules, and I'm just really grateful to have somebody in my life who supports me in that way.
Hi, I'm Mac. This is my second time coming here. His first time. This is my son Malachi. Appreciate your teachings. I learned a lot in this session, and I'm just gonna keep coming back. All love and peace, my way.
Morning. My name is Eli. I had a concern that turned into a joy this week, and this teaching today made me reflect on it in a different way. Midweek, there was a lot coming at me. This country and the way it's operating, several human beings and the way they presented themselves to me, stoplights, hungry dogs, and it became hard to operate, and I did not take the time to check in. I did not take the time to find refuge until a friend sent me a post by Carl Sagan, and it was an image from deep space, I think from the Voyager probe, and it was looking back on Earth as this tiny speck of dust, and it was circled and a little note that said, all of your suffering, right here in this little speck. And in that moment, it made me feel both how important my feelings were, but then how big the universe is and how insignificant they really are, and that they can be both. They can be both of those things. And it gave me a moment to step inside of my refuge and find the patience and the compassion and the care to move forward with my days, my week. Thank you, Carl.
Buddha emanating through Carl Sagan.
Thank you. Hello, Sangha. I'm Nathan Shanling Su. I have a joy. I got a phone call from the wife of a former band member. I haven't talked to them it's been like 10 years. And a phone call, it was a text. And the text message was just to tell me that her father-in-law, a bandmate's father, had given her family a copy of my album 2 years ago, and they've been listening to it the whole time. And their 10-year-old was in the backseat of the car when they were taking them to something. and they and their friends were singing my reconciliation song. So it's a really funny thing when you think you create something that maybe nobody cares about, that all along they've been listening to it and getting happiness from it. And I had no idea that that was a thing. And it gave me a chance to check in with them and see how they're doing. So here's a shout out to unseen joyful consequences that you don't even know are working in the background. Thanks.
Morning, everybody. My name is Carly. My concern today is how consumed my head and my heart have been for a really long time. And my joy is that I have recognized that, and I have accepted that so I can make different choices in my life. And my joy is that this philosophy in this place came into my life at the right time.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jyoti, or Katie. I have like 8 names. It's not important. I'm thankful for all of you, and especially for my wonderful husband, whom I dragged out this morning, even though I'm sure we would rather be doing crosswords right now. Thank you all.
Hello, my name is Isaac. This is my second time here. I have a concern and a joy. My concern was I was always like a very angry person and emotional. And today's talk, which will be my joy. So I have a small story. I bought some snowboard boots like 3 days ago, and they were like $400. And then I have a cat, and he destroyed them. He ripped them up. And I was so mad, and I was like yelling and my girlfriend and stuff, taking it out on everybody. And like you talked about today, how the pencil, and it spoke to me. And I've always wanted to do this practice for a long time, and this is my second time here. And every time, and just being my second time, it's like helped me so much. And I'm thankful for this temple being here, because I can already feel the changes in my life that I've needed. So yeah, thank you guys.
Is there anything online?
We have 2. We have one from Amy. Concern: I run a nonprofit outside of my day job, and due to federal cuts to climate endeavors, my nonprofit is really hurting and might need to roll back programs, which has caused me extreme stress lately. Joy: my 3 dogs make me laugh every day. They are huskies, and they do that thing where they jump up and then bury their noses in the snow. And we were walking in a field the other day, and they were all doing that at the same time repeatedly, and it was just hilarious. Second one is from Andrew. I have a joy. I'm going to Chicago this week for a work conference, and I am very grateful and excited.
So let's take a quick moment to hold space for all those joys and concerns. And we bow. I'm going to quickly do all the announcements. Is that good, Ellen? So I'll start with our February announcements. We do have an online meditation group on Wednesdays from 6 to 6:45 p.m., which by the way, all of this information you can find on our website or in our newsletter. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, you should sign up. Thursday Dharma discussion group, that is from 9:30 to 11 a.m. Currently reading Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet by Thich Nhat Hanh. Ryan Duffield, Jingsu, if you're interested in more information. Okay. Today is a board meeting, a temple board meeting. So if you're interested in seeing the back end of what happens for the people who take care of the temple, and you just kind of want to sit in, be a part of the meeting, or are interested in just seeing what our board does, you can sit in on that today. It's from 11:30 to 1, and it'll be downstairs. You can also join via Google Meet for any friends that are online. We have a winter silent retreat next Saturday, February 21st from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And you can reach out to Kunga for more information. It's a silent retreat. We meditate a lot. I'll wish you all the best and wish I could be there, but I'll be in training, unfortunately. Fortunately. I don't know, both ways. Sad to miss it. We also have a Buddhist mutual aid Sangha pantry. It's a pantry downstairs that our Sangha started. It's got food that's been donated. You're welcome to take some if you're in need, or if you know somebody who is in need, please, please, please take something to your community if they're in need. Or if you know to any friends who know of people that are in need, please feel free to use that resource. We have Buddhist-based recovery meetings. Mondays, 6:30 p.m. meditation, 7 p.m. meeting at the temple. Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. at the Alano Club. Fridays, 10:05 a.m. meditation and 10:30 a.m. meeting here at the temple. You can get in touch with Anandapala, Greg, you here? Where are you? Somewhere here, if you're interested in more information. You can visit our website for more information. We, lastly, our temple runs on donations. Money is great because it helps keep the doors open, but you can also donate in other ways. If you would like to donate financially, you can donate online via PayPal. You can also scan the QR code on the box over there, or you can put some money in an envelope and stick it in there. Otherwise, you can also donate with your time or products that we're in need of. Sometimes it's toilet paper, sometimes it's paper towels, sometimes it's plastic bags. Best thing to do is to reach out and figure out what those things are and how you can support the temple. I think that covers everything. We are over. So let's go ahead and recite our closing gathas together. And that is on page 6. And together we say, for all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to enter. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. And lastly, this side of the room, face this side of the room, and our closing vows. Thank you everyone for being here. Just a couple reminders. If you can straighten up your cushion, put it nicely square with all the other ones next to it, it'd be much appreciated. And Dharma books will go to somebody who is walking around collecting them. Happy Sunday and happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Happy Love Day.